Welcome to today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman. My name is Fagbeja, and I'll be reading Ugomma's story. I come from a family of 5 girls, and I am the third born. My father was the laughingstock of the community where we grew up because he had no boys, and he took out his frustration on my mother. There was never peace in our home. My mother was always sad because my father insulted her all the time, calling her barren and useless. To my young mind, I wondered how a woman who had 5 children could be called barren. I did not understand until I was a little older that it was because she did not have a male child. And as I understood, I started to feel worthless. I felt as though no matter how skilled or how talented I was, I would always be less than a boy. I had strong reasons to feel this way because I watched my mother agonize and blame herself daily for not having a boy. I was the most inquisitive of the children, and I also felt strongly protective of her. I promised myself that I would become like a boy for my mother and learn to do everything a boy could do to prove that she had lost nothing. And so I watched the boys around, spent most of my time with them, and copied everything they did to the extent that people started saying I was the one that should have come as a boy. But it did not really change anything because they would say it was because my mother's body was not built for male children that I came out as a girl. And it seemed to make things worse. So it further entrenched my belief that no girl was as valuable as a male child, and I strived so hard to prove otherwise. By the time we started finishing secondary school, my father refused to pay for our university. Even getting him to pay for our WAEC exams was hard, but after paying for my 2 older sisters, it was easier to convince him to pay for mine. I wanted to study engineering because it was masculine. I knew I would have to strive my way through because my mother was already struggling to support my older sisters. I was determined, and so once I got admission, I decided to start a business. In my first year, even though I had to stay with a friend, I started a small laundry business where I collected other students' clothes and got some local boys to wash and iron them. Within a year, my business had grown to the point where I was able to rent a small 2-bedroom apartment where I did my business and lived. Most of my customers were male students. I was comfortable around them and knew how to convince them. In my second year, I got a scholarship from one of the oil companies, so I had a lot of extra cash that I could use to support my siblings in school. I also gave my mother some money to help her grow her foodstuff business. My business grew to the point where I had to use the entire 2-bedroom apartment for it. I even got lecturers and other staff as clients, and the business did not require too much of my involvement, so I could concentrate on my academics. I was extremely prudent, and I was able to save a lot of money too. By the time I finished school, I was one of the best graduating students in my electrical engineering class, and I was offered a place on the graduate internship program at the same oil company that gave me a scholarship. I also completed my national youth service with them. By this time, I had grown to know that I was not worthless because I was female, and my life had also proven it. However, I was angry with my father for how he treated my mother and us. I refused to send him any financial assistance, even though my mother tried to convince me otherwise. She would always give him half of whatever I sent her, telling him that I asked her to do so. But I think he knew the truth, especially because my attitude to him whenever I came home was never cordial. I was bitter and angry with him until I met the man who later became my husband. He helped me to realize that the bitterness was hurting me more than it did my father, and that I would never be able to realize my greatest personal potential if I did not forgive my dad. It took me some time, but I started to relate better with my father, and I could see how proud he was of me. I rebuilt our house in the hometown, and he proudly said everywhere that his daughter had built him a house. He often said also that his daughters were better than the sons of many of his mates in our hometown because we all went on to do very well. My eldest sister became a management consultant. The second went into real estate. My immediate younger sister became a teacher who eventually set up a big school in the community, while the last born became a doctor. Unfortunately, my mother died before I got married, but she lived to see all her children graduate from school. It hurt that the person who suffered so much to ensure that we all did well and that we even had a relationship with our father was the one who did not live long enough to see the full rewards of her effort and her labor. It was in her honor that my sister decided to set up the school in the community, and it was named after her. My father remarried a young girl who ironically had 3 boys for him. We all contribute to support and to train those boys. I hope that people can learn to see that the differences between male and female children are only physiological and biological, but that their achievements in life are dependent on the opportunities and exposure they get. I am a living proof. What do you think about Ugomma's story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to turn on the notification bell so you never miss any story when I post.